Hello, I'm Muriel, and I love true crime.
I'm Nick, and I am not a fan.
Thank you for joining us. Each week, I force Nick to listen to me tell him a story of a true crime. Welcome to Muriel's Murders. This week, we are bringing you an anonymous listener request, the story of Albert Johnson, the Mad Trapper of Rat River. All right. So in the world of North American...
That already sounds like a limerick.
I know.
It already seems like a old, I don't know, poem or something.
When we first started this, I was like, okay, focus up. There's going to be a lot of tongue twisters.
Okay.
So in the world of North American frontier stories, this is like one of the gnarliest standoffs from an era defined by gnarly standoffs. Also, I didn't mean you focus up. I mean, I focus up. Because a lot of this is just taking a lot of, talking.
a lot of mouth action.
A lot of mouth noises. All right. So it's one man against the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, posses of Canadians, bushmen, trackers with homemade bombs, teams of sled dogs, dynamite, a plane piloted by a World War I war hero, and some of the harshest winter terrain you can think of, all set in the sprawling forests of the Canadian subarctic. Arctic.
Tongue twisters. This is like old timey, basically.
It's 1931, yeah.
Yeah,
so
all
the
right.
pursuit of the Mad Trapper marked the beginning of modern frontier living. It was like the first time law enforcement or Canadian law enforcement used an airplane to track down a fugitive. It was the first time they used two-way radios to track someone down. And the event was so bonkers that I guess civilians also like bought up radios in like huge numbers to listen to the month-long chase via news broadcasts, which kind of inadvertently helped boost the popularity of this newfangled device called the radio.
Wow. Look at that. Crime really does pay. If you're trying to make radio money. I don't know. All right.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
So this was like a surprise hit for me. A really great suggestion. It got better and better. Like, sometimes with old-timey stories, you don't know... Actually, this is kind of funny. So I do old-timey stories. I really like them. And when I do them, they're usually like, 1800s, early 1900s. This is 1931. Or 1931 to 1932. And it didn't really occur to me like, oh yeah, like this is very well researched and pretty well documented.
Yeah, you just thought it was a bunch of old drunken guys like putting notes into bottles or whatever and throwing them out to sea.
Well, and then like once you get into it, it's like, oh man, got to remember a lot of stuff. So I had to do a lot of map looking, which I'm not great at. And conversion from kilometers to miles and stuff like that. So listen, forgive my mistakes and love me anyway. You're here for an entertaining podcast. I'm not a scientist. Okay. All right. For this episode, I used The Mad Trapper, Unearthing a Mystery by Barbara Smith. And there's several publications of this next book. I used the 1991 publication of The Mad Trapper of Rat River by Dick North, who's written a bunch of stuff about this case.
Great.
They're both real great books. And that's it.
All
now
right,
you
cool.
go.
All right, yeah. We got to thank a bunch of our Patreon subscribers, some of which are returning, some of which are old school, and some are brand new. We want to thank Kiyama, Jane, Amanda, Colleen, Lexi, Christine, S.E., Claire, Greta, Tim, Elizabeth, Helen, Laurel, and Sophie. Boom!
Yeah!
Thank you all. $5 a month gets all of those wonderful people and you, our dear listener, access to 2 exclusive true crime episodes and 1 non-true crime episode of Mouth Noises a month. Thank you to each and every single one of you people out there who are listening right now. You press play. We found each other. It's a miracle. Go to murielsmurders.com/support to learn about all the fun and sexy ways you can inject your hot support into Muriel's Murders.
Oh, God. Worst day of my life. Yeah. All right. This is a true story. Actually, really, thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
We've been kind of like, I feel like the Patreon is cracking. We got lots of really fun stuff on there. And then like we did some traveling. We missed a couple episodes.
Yeah.
But we're back. Oh, this episode is also going to be in 2 parts. So if you're on the Patreon.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I told you, but you were reading an email. So we'll get the other one up probably tomorrow on the Patreon. So you'll get it pretty quick.
Are we going to record that tonight too?
No.
Okay.
I'm tired.
Yeah, I was going to say, what email was I reading? Okay, because I got to edit all this.
I know what email you're reading.
Okay, anyways. So yeah, if you are a subscriber, you'll get early access to part 2.
Yeah, and also, you guys are so great. We're just happy to be back, man. Life's a trip. Yikes. But you guys are great.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
This is a true story involving murder, violence, drugs, adult themes, etc. So if any listeners are like Nick and they don't want to hear about those kind of things, go listen to a different podcast.
Yeah, like the Good Stuff podcast, which is also one that I produce. But anyways,
very good.
Yes, it's great. The Good Stuff podcast. Go listen to it after this or now, whatever. We joke, we curse. Be warned. Goodbye or welcome, and we love you.
All right, Nick, are you ready to hear this story?
No.
Okay, let's get started. This story starts way up north in the Northwest Territories of Canada in 1931. So back in 1931, the area of the Northwest Territories was bigger than it is today, about 1.3 million square miles of vast wilderness. So just for reference, almost 5 times the state of Texas is today. The 1931 census counted just 9,316 people occupying that entire area.
Damn.
So we're talking about tiny group of people, gigantic swath of land.
Yeah, and probably a lot of like ghosts, spirits. I'm thinking Revenant kind of vibes, you know what I mean? Or like Mandingos, or what's that other one?
I know, I feel like you're saying, you're not saying...
What?
You're not saying any of the right words. I know what movie you're talking about. I'm pretty sure.
There's like some haunted bears or something, you know, ancestors past.
In that movie.
What? Let's just keep going. Don't try to.
Sorry. I don't think you know what you just said, but it was very funny. For the... All right.
Wandingos? What are they called?
Well, in the movie, they're called Wendigos.
Wendigos? Oh, okay.
Wendigos. It's very much like this great backdrop of like this, you know, kind of haunted frontiersman situation. Just like that movie.
Yeah, okay.
Great. Fun. All right. So traditionally, they were mostly fur trappers, but by 1931, humans were already transitioning to mining the land. Over the years, the trappers would fade out as people found the frozen ground was filled with precious metals, oil, and diamonds. But in 1931, fur trapping was still all the rage for the 9,000 people scattered across the rugged territory.
Yeah, because they don't care about diamonds. They're not going to keep them warm.
Our story starts in the area around Fort McPherson, along the rivers and creeks near the edge of the Richardson Mountains. So if you're not familiar with the geography, I'll just tell you. Why not? I read a map about it. So it's like the north...
she read a map about it.
The north.
Okay.
I Googled it. The Northwest Territories and Yukon, right? They're the 2 territories that are next to each other. Yeah. And they have a range of mountains called the Richardson Mountains in between that are kind of huge, kind of like the Rocky Mountains. Okay. And then Alaska is on the other side of the Yukon. So this is really far north. And also in the Northwest Territories, a huge swath of it is in the Arctic Circle. So it's really, really north. And then the rest of it is sort of the subarctic. So there's still forests and things like that. Some sort of summers, but they're type of thing where it's still almost the land of the midnight sun, you know, and winters are almost completely dark.
Right. Okay.
Why are you laughing at me?
I don't know.
Because I know you don't know these things. I'm telling you.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, this is entertaining, but sometimes it's just funny that it's just what you do. That's it.
I know.
I don't know what to say. It's just, what are you even, you know,
what am I
okay, the Yukon, Alaska, here we go. I don't know.
Well, I mean,
it's great.
Saying, very
it's great.
far north. Stop it. So this story is in the area around Fort McPherson. It's kind of like, well, anyway, it's in the Northwest Territories. It's by the mountains. Lots of
it's
rivers
somewhere
and
in
creeks.
all of that you're talking about.
Right.
Okay.
So on Christmas Day, 1931, Royal Canadian Mounted Police Constable Edgar Millen was manning the tiny, remote police outpost at the mouth of the Mackenzie and Arctic Red Rivers. Now, Millen, he was originally from Ireland, and he was known in the area for baking fantastic pastries and being a badass step dancer. So the police outposts were far flung in the territory. So people sometimes came from miles and miles away to lodge complaints.
Right, because there's like no one lives there.
There's
Like
nobody there.
who's he baking pies for, and who's he step dancing with?
Well, that's why he was so famous. Because
He's
there's only like
the-
5
literally
people.
the only person who does it.
He's like, this guy makes the best pies I've ever had. He's like, what are you talking about?
I'll trade you 19 diamonds for a slice of that pie.
Kinda, I would in that situation.
Yeah.
All right. So that Christmas, some fur trappers from the Lisho tribe came in from Rat River, about 70 miles northwest of this tiny outpost, to lodge a complaint with Constable Millen. Apparently, there was this rude white guy up on Snake River who had built a cabin on the riverbank and had been sabotaging their traps all winter long. So, Nikki, you remember how when we were on that swamp tour in New Orleans and saw how people would like forage and claim cypress logs? And we were kind of joking about, oh, well, what would it, because they're worth like, they use, we've talked about this, I think, on the podcast, but they use cypress wood, or this particular type of cypress wood, to build in New Orleans because it's rot resistant.
Right. And these are houses that are like built on the river,
right,
or in the swamps and shit.
So we were on the swamp tour with these houses that are right on the swamp, and the idea is you can't log the cypress anymore because they're overlogged. But the foraged logs are worth like $60,000 or $70,000 depending on the size.
Yeah.
Some of these people who live along the banks of the swamp, they go foraging these logs, and it's their whole income for like the year, right? Yeah. Remember, we were like joking, and the guy's like, "Oh yeah, I mean, you can joke, but if you tried to tamper with the markings on these logs, you would get shot." We were like,
one dude on this was like, "Can we steal these things?" He was like, "They will kill you.
They will kill you." Yeah. Well, everybody's just watching us go down this dumb boat on the swamp. Hey guys, we're from California. So back in 1931, way up north in the wilderness, in the middle of wintertime, messing with someone's traps was kind of like that. Like trapping animals was their whole income for the year, their lifeline to survival. Like not just their food, but like the way that they survived year round, right? Also, remember, it's the Great Depression. So it was also just critical that people did not mess with each other's traps. So it wasn't like some annoying thing, right? Messing with other people's traps was a big deal. And RCMP Constable Edgar Millen was pretty sure he knew who the trappers were complaining about. So back in the summer, on July 7th, 1931, there were a couple brothers, the Snowshoes brothers, and they saw an unfamiliar man with like a shock of blonde hair and bright blue eyes camping on the bank of Peel River near Fort McPherson. So long story short, a friend of the Snowshoes brothers had mentioned that, hey, you know, my brother-in-law is coming up for a visit this summer. And he said, oh, and my brother-in-law's name is Albert Johnson. So the brothers from the water, they call out, you know, and they say, hey, man, are you Albert Johnson? Because their friend's pretty cool. And the guy was just looked at him. Was like, yes. Yes, I am. I am Albert Johnson.
In the least Albert Johnson way possible.
So they spoke briefly with the guy. He was kind of bitchy and lost. And he mistakenly thought he was on Snake River, not Peel River. So he was like 100 miles from where he wanted to be. So the brothers kind of left him alone after that. They were just like, all right, that guy doesn't want to talk to us. Sorry, I'm getting a spam call. I don't know if you can see that on the screen.
What did he want to do at the other river? Why did he, what's he doing?
Well,
camping?
that's part of the whole story, right?
Oh, okay.
He's I mean, you're out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
I don't think the maps are like insanely accurate, right? You're trying to find this one tiny river in like a sea of rivers,
right.
in this area you've never been in.
So he's doing something, fishing, who knows?
He's annoyed because he's too far away.
Okay.
So 2 days after that encounter, the man, now called Albert Johnson, came into Fort McPherson to buy supplies. He was muscular, well-built, hauling what looked to be, like most people, like a 200-pound backpack, like a huge backpack, and then had a couple of rifles slung over his shoulders. He barely spoke to anyone and paid for another shotgun in cash. He stayed around town for about 3 weeks without talking much, just staying in his tent, being antisocial. So during a storm, some locals came over and they invited him to come inside the fort for shelter as a gesture of goodwill. But he just said no and yanked his tent flap down in their faces. And now, because that, like that northern territory is so harsh, it really is, like, you rely on each other to survive. And so this type of behavior,
it's just weird.
It might, like, to me, I'm like, don't come in my tent. But for him, it's a very strange way to behave.
It's like a huge red flag too, right?
Yeah, right. So before the man called Albert Johnson left the area, he periodically bought supplies, at one point buying $700 worth of supplies in one go, which was a lot of money in 1931, and paying with a wad of cash he carried in an old tobacco tin. Now, while he kept to himself, he did mention a plan to fur trap along Rat River, or maybe a little further west over the Richardson Mountains in Yukon. Eventually, a nosy church bishop reported the guy, who said he was Albert Johnson, to an RCMP officer. Just a, hey, buddy, just to let you know there's a new stranger in town sort of thing. And the report made it up the chain. And eventually RCMP Constable Millen came to Fort McPherson to just talk with this new guy. And this was actually pretty routine. At the time, there were a steady stream of like weirdos coming up north to escape the Great Depression and try their hand at trapping and hunting in that romantic life. And most of them were pretty crap at doing that.
Right.
So newcomers were often getting themselves into trouble, like getting frostbite, getting in hunting accidents, or starving, or whatever, causing all kinds of headaches for the RCMP. So they tried to make sure any new guys had everything they needed to survive without needing help out in the bush.
Yeah. Okay.
So this Albert Johnson, he told Constable Millen this story about how he traveled from the prairies up through the Mackenzie River, and he was cagey. He had a faint Scandinavian accent. He was really oddly, very clean shaven and obviously flush with cash. Millen got a strong impression the guy was lying or hiding something, but lots of guys lied about where they had been and where they were going, especially prospectors and trappers who wanted to hide all their hot spots for gold and animal carcasses, right?
Right.
So Millen just took Albert Johnson at face value and reminded him to make sure to buy a trapper's license before he left so he wouldn't have to go out of his way to get one later.
Man, I just sort of I just want to say, you're in the middle of nowhere. You're in so far. It's basically not even planet Earth, right?
Yeah.
It's like a different thing.
Yeah.
It's 1930.
Yeah.
They have a cop. They've heard of pie. They have a dance move, apparently. They're there's licenses.
Humans are pretty cool.
This is they're so civilized. I would think oh, you told me 1930 and the mountains. That's why I was thinking it was ghosts and, freaking haunted, things. And they, people didn't even know, had never even heard of the Great Depression. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's definitely, people had radios and stuff like that. So definitely people in newspapers and people kind of knew about stuff, but
I guess 1930 is
it's it's after World War I. It's definitely there's stuff going on, but I get you. I also was just struck by how friendly, Do you guys hear this honking?
As you're talking about how people are friendly, there's people outside our window just laying on their horn.
This guy today started screaming at the garbage men. I could not believe that.
Yeah, that was pretty intense.
It was crazy. I've never seen somebody, he was like opening his door being like, I'm going to fight you. It's like, he's just picking up the garbage. Just wait until they pass. Just move to the side.
It was so intense. I was like having a bad day, and then I watched this man threaten to murder a garbage truck driver. I was like, well, at least I'm not... At least my life is better than that, guys.
Well, I had noise-canceling earbuds in, and I came out, I was like, is that guy fighting with the garbage man? What is happening? Anyway, everyone's like so friendly, and and looking out for each other in terms of survival, right? It's very different than our lives today. So after he speaks to the constable, this guy called Albert Johnson bought a canoe, loaded up his massive pack, and paddled away in search of Rat River, bathed in the summer light of the midnight sun.
It's good, Muriel.
Thank you. The path to Rat River over the summer was like real brutal. To get from one river to the next, like you had to physically carry all your gears and canoe across different portages. So portages are like these kind of trails that are made to, well, transport your gear from one body of water to the other. So there's a bunch of series of like lakes and creeks and rivers all over the place. They don't necessarily connect.
Yeah.
So these, you can, use these. We don't know. You and I don't know because we can't even handle camping. But that's what a portage is.
Portage. I mean, it sounds like it's just a trail.
Kind of, yeah. It's just a trail intended to help, like, for people to move gear. They're choked with willow trees and underbrush at the time, and clouds of mosquitoes and these stinging flies. Like, pretty crazy. When the forest warmed up, it just got like explosive. Right? And in some days, it could take a whole day just to drag your boat and your gear a mile across these portages. But apparently, Albert Johnson made it just fine. And by Christmas, he was holed up in a rough-cut 8x10 cabin. That's 8 foot by 10 feet cabin, trapping, thriving, and allegedly terrorizing the locals. And he never did get that trapping license. So on Saturday, December 26th, the next day, Constable Millen sent two men, Constables Alfred King and Joe Bernard, out to Rat River to tell this Johnson guy to quit messing with other people's traps and to go purchase himself a trapping license. A simple task, but back then, it was the journey that was insane. So that time of year, way up in the North Country, the dawn broke around 10:30 in the morning and gave way to twilight around noon. And then there was a few hours of twilight before the dark took everything over again, around 2 or 3 o'clock.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So the two men had to make the 70-ish mile trip to Snake River via dog sled over 3 days and 2 nights of wind, snow, and temperatures between -40 and -50 degrees.
What person is going to do that today? Unless you are rescuing someone or tracking down a murderer, who the hell is going to put that kind of work into their, I don't care, law enforcement, whatever your job is. Could you imagine working that hard to be like, excuse me, are you the guy that's been like tampering with traps? Which I get is like not a bet. It's not a small thing. It's a big deal. But it's like, is that like akin to like robbing banks? I mean, it's just like, and be like, get your stupid license. It's like, bro, it's going to take you a week to get there and back.
Well,
and
there aren't a lot of things to police, so they had to, they only had this one
earn
thing.
His paycheck.
Yeah. I mean, what else are they going to do? They just sit around.
Step dance, make I don't even know what step dancing is.
It's like Irish step dancing.
Oh, damn, that kind?
Yeah.
Like river dance?
Yeah. So why wouldn't he be famous?
I don't know why. Yeah, just doing that. Why not? Why wouldn't you river dance?
Yeah.
Of course. Just river dance.
What else are you going to do?
They celebrate Christmas apparently too.
There's no TV.
Okay, so he travels 3 days, risks his life.
So that's what these two guys are doing, right? His two constables. So the whole area, stop it. The whole area between, just kidding, you can do whatever you want. Between the RCMP posts and Rat River, that like 70-ish mile trip, is so packed with little creeks and bodies of water that the map actually kind of looks like the inside of a pomegranate. And their only choice was to sled across the patchwork of icy wilderness, which could be hit or miss in terms of hitting a patch of slushy ice, falling in, and freezing to death.
Right, exactly.
And out there, you can die because your snowshoe broke, or you tweaked your ankle, or accidentally burned your axe handle, or lost a mitten. Like the TV show Alone has taught us.
Yeah.
Go watch it if you haven't seen it. It's very good. Up near the Arctic Circle, it just takes one stupid mistake, like throwing your only flint in a fire, or getting your finger caught in a fish hook, or classic, forgetting to take down your ladder and having a wolverine climb up to your food cache and eat all your moose fat, right? One mistake and
you're dead.
Yeah.
You're dead.
So Constables King and Bernard mushed 30 miles before stopping for the night at Fort McPherson. The next morning, they mushed up the frozen Peel River until they hit the intersection with Rat River. Now, Rat River was a tiny, twisty river worming off the side of the Peel River. Albert Johnson's cabin was 20 miles up the Rat River in the dense forest. So King and Bernard, they stopped. They camped out about 10 miles from the cabin and spent the night in the snow. And then they found Albert Johnson's little cabin around noon the next day. There were snowshoes out front and smoke coming out of the chimney. Mr. Johnson was certainly in. They shouted out hellos. Nothing. They went up to the tiny cabin and knocked on the little 4-foot door. Nothing. They introduced themselves as constables through the door. Nothing. Constable King glanced to the right of the door at a small rough-cut window covered in a burlap sack and was shocked to see a blue-eyed, blonde-haired wild man giving him a stink eye, like a hard attitude. The man yanked the burlap flap closed and retreated silently back into his cabin. So this was weird. Like, usually remotely positioned trappers are so happy to see anyone. They welcome visitors with open arms. And also, like we said, it was customary that far north to let people in when they knocked. Like, you don't want to leave a neighbor out in that weather to freeze to death or something, you know? Yeah. You're like 1 degree of separation from everyone who lives in the entire territory.
Right.
In the end, this visit was both anticlimactic and unnerving. So now, instead of a simple chat, they were dealing with a potential cabin fever freak out or something. Like, something was wrong with this guy. Yeah. So the constables milled about on the porch for about an hour before they got too cold and decided to backtrack down Snake River, back to Peel River, and then 50 miles further north to the settlement of Eklavik. They were going to have to deal with this guy one way or the other. There were higher-ranking officials in Eklavik who could give them a search warrant and maybe some backup in case this thing went sideways. So a couple days later, their commanding officer, Inspector Ames, sent the men back to the cabin on Snake River with a warrant, a couple more men, and a second team of dogs. Now, this time, the trip was a little shorter. The men only had to spend one night camping and landed at the cabin around noon in the twilight on January 31st. That's New Year's Eve. They were all excited to get this thing with Albert Johnson over with in time to celebrate New Year's at this banging annual party at Fort McPherson. So once again, Johnson's ass is clearly home. There's smoke coming out the chimney and everything like that, right? But this time their inaction would be brief. Constable King announced that they had a search warrant. They would force the door open if they had to. Not a peep from the cabin. Constable King gave the door a little knock, and without hesitation, Albert Johnson shot King straight through his front door, blasting him into a snowbank. So the other men covered King while he dragged himself through the snow and out of the line of fire. And the posse was in a really bad spot. Constable King had been shot in the chest. He was dying. And they were about 50 miles from the nearest hospital. The dogs were exhausted. And the only chance they had of keeping King alive was to race nonstop back to the settlement. It was already windy and below -40, but the wind from the sled travel added to everything, so the cold cut like a machete. At these temperatures, your snot can freeze inside your nose. Ice can form on your eyelids. So the other constables had to keep rubbing King's face just to keep it from freezing over as they're mushing back to the settlement.
Man, that's such a crazy, intimate thing to do to keep someone alive, like rubbing your face.
It took them 20 hours straight in these conditions to make it back to Eklavik. And one of the sled dogs died on the way, just on the ice from exhaustion.
R.I.P.
At the little settlement hospital, it was found the bullet made a clean pass through King's chest and missed any vital organ bits. He recovered neatly like 3 weeks later.
Oh, amazing. Damn.
But now things with Albert Johnson had escalated from a simple chat about trapping etiquette to attempted murder of a police officer. Yeah. Inspector Ames figured the only way to deal with this situation was to send enough men, dogs, supplies, and dynamite to surround the cabin and overwhelm this Albert Johnson. But he didn't have enough guys to do that and keep his tiny police force functional. There weren't many law enforcement officials in the area. The Eklavik settlement had 11. The post at the Arctic Red River had 3, including this injured Constable King. And there were no other officers stationed at Fort McPherson. So the inspector decided to recruit some civilians and military members. So good news, he got a good-sized posse together. Bad news, the recruitment effort led to the story breaking to a wider community. So the story of the ambush Mounties and the shootout with the lone gunman caught on like brush fire. The press gave so-called Albert Johnson a new name, the Mad Trapper, a man driven insane by the isolation of the deep North country.
Yeah, it went viral, baby.
Yeah. On January 4th, 1932, Inspector Ames set off to Rat River with a posse of 9 men, 42 dogs, and 20 pounds of dynamite.
What do 42 dogs do? Just get everything there?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah.
But it's vital. There's no other way to get anything anywhere.
Right. I was just wondering if and then they're also good at like attacking.
No, they're sled dogs. Yeah. Well, okay. So first off, there were like back-to-back snowstorms after the posse started out. So not a great look. Also, they were freaked out that Johnson could ambush them from the thick Arctic bush on the banks of Rat River. So they tried to maneuver off the river to capitalize on the element of surprise. That got hairy, though, because bushwhacking through the forest was really tough work. They did 28 miles in 2 days and burned through most of their food. So ultimately, it took the posse 5 days to make that same journey that it took the posse 20 hours to make a few days earlier.
Right.
After multiple scouting missions and sneaking through the forest, they finally positioned themselves around the Mad Trapper's cabin, once again around noon in the twilight. And once again, the smoke billowed out the chimney, and it was a clear day as the Mad Trapper was just chilling in his house. Sorry, and it was clear as day that the Mad Trapper was just chilling in his house.
Yeah, a beautiful, beautiful pitch black noon.
So Inspector Ames took the lead, and in a big, powerful voice, he shouted out to Johnson, saying, "Hey, come out, my guy. It's over. And by the way, the constable you shot isn't dead, so you're not in really bad trouble or anything." And he shouts a few more times. Once again, Johnson didn't say a word. The posse tried to then get into the cabin through all kinds of sneaky ways, including an attempt to just batter the door down. But Albert Johnson was ready. He had cut little muzzle holes all along the bottom of the cabin, and he had dug himself out a pit, like in his house, making it a bunker where he could stand firing guns from both hands through the holes. He had a sawed-off .22 rifle in one hand and a sawed-off shotgun in the other.
At the bottom of the house.
Yeah.
So you can shoot out their ankles or something?
Yeah, and also shoot up. He doesn't. He can shoot, but he's got full view of them.
Right. He made himself a basement, basically.
Yeah, that he stands in and then shoots 2 guns at the same time. So they're not expecting this. This is like a pretty wild situation. Nobody noticed the holes beforehand. So Albert counterattacked with so much gunfire that the posse couldn't really get near the cabin at all. And the standoff lasted hours into the night when temperatures dipped way past -40. The posse had
way past -40 Fahrenheit?
Actually, I found out that because they zero at different times, I don't understand this at all, but apparently -40 is the same in Celsius and Fahrenheit. Once it gets to a certain point below zero.
Oh my God, -40. That doesn't seem possible.
That's before wind chill and stuff like that.
That doesn't seem I feel like I don't believe it.
What are you talking about?
That seems too cold.
It's very cold.
We used to live in like -10 sometimes, and that was like
too much.
That was way too much. -40?
Yeah, -40,
if
dude.
you say so, liar.
So it's so cold. It's dark. They can't light any fires because they're like dodging bullets. Yeah. They have to move around to stay warm, which burned calories, which in turn made them eat more, which unfortunately their food stocks are already low from their adventure tramping through the woods earlier. So they're completely running out of food. And meanwhile, Johnson was just like warm and cozy in his cabin, and he had great sight lines for shooting in all directions.
But no one's been hit yet.
They're just like at a weird standoff, right?
Yeah.
And they're shooting in the dark. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I don't think they were a super precise.
Yeah, of course.
Shots.
Yeah, I get it. But I'm just, no one's been hit. Just nice 12, 13-hour shootout. Zero bullseyes, yeah.
So around 9 p.m., long after the sun had set, they took a break and they went off into the woods to make fires and regroup. I mean, what the hell was going on? This all started with a friendly chat about a potential misunderstanding about traps, and now they had this madman on their hands who successfully turned his cabin into an impenetrable war machine. Like, who was this guy?
Right, it's like Killdozer cabin version.
Right, and they're calling him crazy, but he's like outfoxing everyone. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
He can't be that crazy. He's very, very precise. So at this point, Inspector Ames had 2 options. Pry this crabby dude out of his mega bunker and end the standoff, or retreat for like the 3rd time and dog sled the whole clown show back 50 miles to the goddamn settlement to get more supplies, right?
What about trying to burn it down?
Well, they had wanted to take Albert Johnson alive, but they were running out of time for a non-lethal extraction. Yeah. So it was time for the dynamite.
Okay. Oh, yeah, right. They had all that.
But it was so cold, the dynamite was frozen and the charges weren't working right. So Ames had his men carefully stick the dynamite under their clothes to use their body heat to thaw out the dynamite.
So scary.
So it was explosive. And then they went with plan B. They were going to try and blind this Albert Johnson dude with flares and then blow up his cabin.
Yeah.
So the posse took turns running through the night through 3-foot drifts of snow to try to get close enough without getting shot to huck dynamite at the cabin while the other guys waved flares in the background. And they spent hours on this line of attack. The posse's like freezing outside, Albert in his heated cabin/bunker. But most of the dynamite, it was too frozen to explode, and none of it really did any damage. And eventually the flares just all ran out. They were stuck with nothing.
Reminds me of those like bottle girls, you know, when they have the like sparklers on the bottles of champagne in clubs or whatever. They're just like river dancing around, trying to like, hey, look over here.
I mean, you know, nobody could anticipate this happening. It seems like they were really prepared, right?
Yeah.
So finally, in the wee hours of the morning, Newt Lang, he was the tallest guy in the group, like 6'3", he volunteered to rush the cabin and try and land some dynamite on the roof. They had 4 pounds of dynamite left, 0 flares, and then like one guy with a flashlight. So Newt, he lit the fuse and he ran up and did this incredible throw, like hucked this dynamite, they said 20 yards onto the roof of this cabin. And the hope was to blow up the roof and rush the cabin while Johnson was still dazed, while the guy with the flashlight ran it behind, shining the light in Johnson's face and blinding him, right? Well, the dynamite let off a terrific bang, but it's unclear how much damage to the cabin it actually did. For sure, like it knocked the front door open. So some accounts say it like blew the whole cabin apart and whatever. And some accounts say something else. But we know for sure it knocked the front door open. According to some accounts, Albert Johnson sprung up and shot the flashlight out of some dude's hand, and then everybody ran back to the river afraid. Now, according to later accounts, this is kind of maybe more what happened, is a few of the men crept up to the open door through the snow, but it was too dark to see anything inside. So they tied a flashlight to a stick, stood to the side of the door, and hung the flashlight in front of the door while another guy ran really fast by the door to see if he could see if Johnson was dead. And as the guy ran by the door, Johnson popped up and tried to shoot him and shot the flashlight, right? So at any rate, no flares, no more dynamite, and now their flashlight doesn't work anymore.
You know, I get that this is like very scary and that these guys are surviving like really harsh conditions, and it's like real guns, real dynamite. Like I understand the stakes and just how drastic it is.
Yeah.
I literally can't watch this without or think about this without envisioning it being children doing it. It just seems like,
well, you know, like,
a flashlight, and then this guy jumped it. He hooked it 20 yards, Pa. I swear. It's like,
I think the thing is that if you don't have any experience, like when would he have ever? There's no crimes like this. This is their first time dealing with this.
Yeah.
So it's like they're having to think on the fly of like, you know,
no, we're
it's no
all
longer baking and step dancing and like resolving trapping disputes, right? It's like, what is happening? Like, and we can't even beat him with dynamite. And this guy just like won't die, and he's so prepared to kill us. Like, how crazy, right? So either way, the flashlight broke. Posse ran away, and it was clear Albert Johnson wasn't dead and was probably way, way madder. So after the 15-hour siege, the posse was freezing. Their food was almost gone. All the dog food was low. The dogs took like 500 pounds of fish with them. Like they had to eat fish for their food. And it's like it takes a lot to feed 42 dogs.
Yeah,
you know?
right. Yeah.
So they decided to throw in the towel and make the long journey back to Eklavik to regroup. Now, this event would kick off a 5-week manhunt skirting the edge of the Arctic Circle in the dead of winter. The mad trapper on foot versus multiple law enforcement agencies, volunteer posses, a fleet of dog sleds, and a whole ass airplane. So next week, we pick up with the mad trapper vanishing into the forest, a series of insane climbing feats, outrageous trickery, blizzards, 2 more extreme shootouts, and a mystery man with scoliosis.
To be continued. Amazing. Thanks to whoever gave us this anonymous recommendation.
It's such a crazy story. I was like, oh, this will be a fun one to knock out, because usually the old-timey ones are like pretty simple. There's not a lot known about them. I'm just like, meanwhile, like 30 maps later, I'm like, which way is north? Do I say up or down? How do you pronounce that? Why is there so much information? No, it's a great story. I love it.
We've been getting some good emails from listeners and people. Thank you so much for reaching out to us. I think this came through an email or whatever. I remember reading it, and it's just, man, you guys are so cool. Thank you for reaching out and showing us some love. And yeah, okay, cool. So yeah, and if you subscribe on Spotify or Patreon, we're going to try to get out part 2 a little early. It won't be out immediately, but keep your eyes on the prize.
Yeah, baby.
Because we're coming for you.
We're coming for you.
Okay.
Okay.
What? I'm going to go get us burritos. Muriel Montgomery did all the reading, writing, researching, and hosting. That was all of her business. And I sat here and recorded it and set up these cameras And I have to edit it and upload it and do all that. This is a tag team
You were also
effort,
very
you know?
charming.
Thanks.
You're
the heart of the show,
heart of
as
the
some
show.
would say.
Yeah.
Just
Some
as
men
would
have
say.
said that.
I know. And I think they said it, but really it was just kind of like implied that like most people believe it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, you're so cute. All
Okay.
right.
Oh. Pink cashmere. Why did pink cashmere from public safety alert? This is a test of South Pasadena.
Weather
is no
alert system.
Okay, well, we're getting an atmospheric storm or something.
Yeah, we're getting an atmospheric river, dude. I don't know if you can see this or not. So let's just end it.
Okay, bye everyone.
Bye.